I started playing soccer when I was about 4, and it just clicked. It fed the energy that I had, all the anxiety. Something about it just made sense to me. And as soon as I scored a goal, I needed more. And that led the trajectory of, playing my whole life.
I've spent most of what I can remember of my childhood going to soccer practice or hanging out with my teammates, like 3-4 days a week, drive 40 minutes to practice and be with my team, and then every weekend do tournaments.
I grew up in the Sacramento area, Elk Grove. I actually wanted to play soccer as far away from Sacramento as I could, and then I got a scholarship at Sac State. And so I've kind of been here ever since.
I'm from the Bay Area. I also ended up playing at Sac State. My relationship with soccer has taken us all over the world and allowing to see really the impact and kind of the weight of the game in a totally unique way.
The years that soccer was not in my life seemed to be the worst years for me. I did have ambitions of trying to play as long as I could and for a career. 1999 was the Women's World Cup that was televised, and that was the first time I had ever seen athletes like that and women playing at a high level, and it clicked that maybe that could be an opportunity for me. And so when I went to Sac State, I did really well, and my coach really liked me and kind of had me on this track of lean into that ambition of you going pro. The other thing that happened in college was I loved partying, but I was so committed to soccer that I could make that a priority, and then everything else was secondary. By the end of my senior year, I was starting to get invited to, professional tryouts. And that was when they had the Women's Pro League, Mia Hamm, Brandy Chastain. And so that's what I was going to do. As those tryouts and the combines were coming up, the Pro League folded. So it was like just overnight, there was no longer a Pro League. Each year that I was out of college, it started taking a toll on me, and not having that team, not having the coaching, just everything that came with D1, but also, like the friends and that space to be seen and achieve. And my partying just increased, the drugs increased. I had gotten heavy into methamphetamines and been arrested multiple times. 2009 was the last time I got arrested. And that time when I was in jail, I didn't have a single person from this place that I grew up in that was willing to bail me out. Like I had gone so far down this path that nobody recognized me anymore. I didn't recognize myself either. That was my turning point of really understanding if I don't get sober, I'm gonna die. The other hard part was like trying to even imagine a life that I could still participate in, that I could enjoy. I decided that I did want to get sober and just do what I could for the rest of my life. So I went into a rehab shortly after that. I was accepted into like a 2-year sober living program. That's where I met a case manager who was familiar with Street Soccer USA and had taken a team of men who were recently homeless to their national tournament. So right the day I walk on the campus, he comes and finds me. And he knows of my background and that I was a soccer player, and I'm moving in, and he's like, hey, we've got this soccer team, like, you got to play. We're going to compete soon. And so then eventually I went and played with them one day in this real, just small patch of grass, tore up pug goals, dudes that I would have never played soccer with before. It is the most fun I'd had in years. It just, reignited me. I felt joy again for the first time in so long. And we did go to this national tournament in Washington, D.C. We competed with other teams from the country that were recently homeless. And the soccer was 4v4, so much smaller. Some teams were good, some teams were not. But the level of inspiration and the atmosphere was just unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. And it really gave me a vision of life that I could have, that I could be healthy. Soccer still fit in, which was incredible. And after that tournament, I got nominated to go to the Homeless World Cup. And it was not the World Cup that I wanted to play in 99. I went to Brazil for that tournament, and it was incredible. I've never lost so many games and left with so much. It was just super impactful. I got to really see the power of the game in a level outside of ability and inclusivity. I came home from that trip just a different person. I felt like I had purpose. I had seen some things that I felt were attainable. I came back home and I felt like I had something to offer somebody, which was like, if you want to go on an international soccer trip, I can show you how to do that. And I can teach you how to play soccer enough to where you could do that. And that's kind of how it started, was trying to get a group of women to have a women's program that they could have those opportunities. Every year, like, the power of soccer just became clearer and clearer. We just stuck with it and have continued to grow out of like necessity for how many more people can we help? 90% success rate of long-term sobriety, which is significant because most rehab programs will say they expect 1 out of 10 to stay sober. So when we started seeing outcomes like that, we didn't really know how to keep it going, but we're like, for some reason, these soccer sessions are changing the women and men's lives. And that was significant too, because a lot of the women had 3-4 kids, but we felt like if we could help them to maintain stability for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, those kids also had a much better chance at the success. And 10 years later, we were seeing those kids who have a very different life than it might have been had the parents not had those opportunities. There was always a men's team, and then the women's team we co-branded with Street Soccer USA as the Lady Salamanders. Yeah, we took a team to a national tournament every year. Then the Homeless World Cup, we would nominate players. So I think we've sent close to 25 men and women from Sacramento to a Homeless World Cup.
Within Street Soccer USA, there's a couple chapters at different maturity levels and then serving different demographics. So the Street Soccer chapters typically have a youth component, low-income schools and kids and communities, and then an adult program, adults transitioning out of homelessness, shelters, transitional homes, also refugees as well. Lisa runs the Sacramento chapter, and that's, what we've developed over the last 12-ish years.
Like, I never thought service work would ever be so much fun, and it's such an adrenaline rush. Like, you get very fulfilled. And I think too, it's like a lot of the people we work with, the kids and the adults, they don't really always have a relationship with soccer prior to us. So you really get to see like this love for something develop into a lifelong hobby and passion. How we perceive homeless, it doesn't actually capture the character and the strength and the resilience of somebody. We see them on the street, we see them intense, we see them wandering around. It's not easy to not know where you're gonna sleep every night, to survive on the street. But when we see these people in a soccer arena or as an athlete, and they have a different way to demonstrate their resilience and their commitment and their grit, we start to see like, oh, they are working with a lot. It just needs to be directed in a different way. But we've seen leadership skills. We've seen incredible toughness and just endurance and stamina. And I think that's like the Homeless World Cup and some of these tournaments. The goal is to let them demonstrate who they are in a different way.
It creates an opportunity for connection, right? Like, play a game and then you're talking with someone afterwards and it's like, where are you from? It creates an opportunity for people to receive each other differently and then understand each other differently and learn from each other.
Life is really different when people have one thing, even just one thing they want to be at. And I think that's what we've seen a lot with people who are excluding themselves or isolated from the communities. They feel like there's nothing in it for them. Same as soccer and goals, right? You take away the goals, the game is just running and exhausting. You add in a couple goals and it changes the urgency and the direction and the commitment. Still recovering. We hosted it last summer. I don't think we ever believed or ever thought that we would have it in Sacramento. I didn't. It's something that we've continued to go to and be a part of every single year because it's literally the most inspiring event and atmosphere I've ever been to. So every year we've gone to take players, but even for ourselves, it's good for the soul. COVID shut the tournament down for a few years. Everybody around the world was kind of desperately missing that. And they, always wanted to have it in the US, but it just hadn't worked out. And we got a call one day last year around this time. It's like, do you think the leadership in Sacramento would be open to hosting this event? And I was like, I don't know. We'll talk to the mayor. We have a lot of relationships. And surprisingly, people were like, yeah, I think that would be interesting. We don't know how we can support, but we would be supportive of it. We had about 6 months to organize the whole thing. But for us, we've always wanted to share this event with our friends, our family, our community. I mean, literally never thought it would be like this close, but it was very special on so many levels, like being at Sac State in the football stadium. We're close to the programs around the world. They were staying in the
dorms that we stayed in college, and where the fields are being
Yeah.
on the track that we used to run fitness tests on.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely surreal.
It was. But it was amazing, you know, and as we've attended this event many different times, understanding the player experience, understanding the attendees, the coaches. So I think we had a lot of fun trying to create the best tournament possible for everybody. Like very, very proud of having that, bringing that here. And even just having that opportunity was so unique and unplanned.
You know, Lisa and I met on this alumni team, and I did know of her before because of her partying and because she held, you know, records at Sac State, and I played there a couple years after her. When we first played together, she mentioned she's a forward, I'm a defender. Our brains are wired differently. I was like, this chick is crazy. Like, why is she taking that shot? I'm like, oh, she scored. Okay, that's cool. I love learning about people through soccer and playing with them. And that she had just got back from the Homeless World Cup, and we went out to eat. I was like, I want to know more about this, you know, and strictly wanted to know more about street soccer. And it was 4 hours of her describing her experience to that point. I think she was like a year sober and literally had just come back from the Homeless World Cup. My mind is blown, like, hearing about this. So there was just this really instant, authentic connection that existed, and that then evolved into us getting married in 2019 and, you know, being together and getting to do this whole journey together. Soccer's given a lot back to us, I would say, for sure.
Couldn't even imagine what my life would be like if you took away everything that was in our life connected to street soccer. It would be so different. I mean, we have so many friends and so much purpose. The community is global. We could go to almost any country and we could connect with some of our friends that we've met through the Homeless World Cup or through soccer. And I think what I love too is it's not around being the best players or the most elite. You know, I had been in an elite level for a long time, and it was actually kind of isolating. This is sort of the opposite. This is where that space where everybody can connect to it, and it's just massive. I mean, the amount of people that we are close to as a part of these efforts is unbelievable. And I think that's what I like to see with the kids we work with, the adults, is kind of like if they feel alone or they don't have a lot of friends, it's just, okay, imagine you having this access to what we have, which is very easy to give another person. All they have to do is kind of show up and enter it, and they can step into this community. And just to give you an idea, like right now, weekly, we do free soccer for 500 kids a week for the entire year. And we have leagues, drop-ins, every night of the week at the street soccer park. It's filled with some kind of, you know, playing, competition, get together.
This introduction to soccer, it does for them what it does for us, where like soccer is the language of the world, right? Like they can go other places and say they're a soccer player and find a little pickup game and then find a community. The Beautiful Game coming out, the Netflix movie, that is something that they feel connected and attached to, and it's a very tangible way to connect dots and then connect with people. And I think that's a lot of what we've been able to do, is introduce a mechanism for people to not feel isolation.